Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. So in today's video we are going to talk about the best handheld for you, or better said, best, here it comes, Android based handheld. There are quite some different versions out there, with the Pi, with Android, Open Dinguks, and even with some Chinese crappy software. But in this video I want to focus on the best Android handhelds out there, so you don't need to waste your money. I would say consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. Give this video a thumb up and hit that little bell, because we're going to do a lot of talking about handhelds, and I did make a lot of reviews about these things. But first let's talk about the Android devices in general. There are quite some different versions out there, and with different version I mean quality wise. If you look at how they are built, for example, we're having more like the Nintendo Switch clone versions that basically can rip out the screen / tablet and you can just use it like Nintendo Switch idea. Nevertheless, there are quite some different versions out there, and I think the most common problem I'm having with these handhelds is that most of them are running on a very old Android. There are some that are not, and I'm going to tell you which one and which one are the best, so you don't need to buy and waste your money on the crappy ones. Alright, so let's begin this video with one I really don't like and that you need to avoid. There are people like this T-Lex you like, I'm not going to like. And the reason why, I just bought two of these damn things and they keep breaking and dying. For example, I think you can see it, but the display itself has quite some big issues. The first one had issues, the second one had issues, and this thing is made of very poor plastic quality parts. So you can even hear it. The shoulder buttons are loose. It's just one freaking big nightmare. But this is one of the earliest Android devices out there. And it was quite unique because Android gives you the possibility to add your own emulators. Sadly, this thing suffers from all the problems like a lot of these things that are running on 4.4 or a very old Android version. So you're limited to the emulators. You can play, let's say, some basic old Android games. But for emulation, you are limited to, let's say, around PlayStation 1. And that is a shame. It's a big shame. It's also a shame that this thing has the issues, because it was a really fun product for back in the day. But as you can see, I don't know what's going on, but I touched the damn thing, but yeah, something is doing. It has some pre-built games, but at the end, avoid this thing and don't waste your money. Because the thing costs around €50. And that's a lot of money for a crappy handheld. Alright, so there's another one I just wanted to show you. This is the PSP ripoff. So this is from the brand GXD, the same like this bad boy. So the GXD is a way better, let's say, quality product. And look at the build quality, these things weigh quite heavy. It got very nice LCD displays inside. And I must say, I am pretty surprised by these. This is one of the earliest releases, so far I understand. And you can see with the display because the view angle is pretty damn poor. But the quality of the displays are way better than the T-Lex you like, for example. But again, this thing suffers from the problem that they're running on an Android 4. This was 4.4 and this is even 4.2 or something like that. So again, it limits you to the emulation and of course the Android app. But there's also a little bit of a downside to this first generation of devices, that it's only having 512 MB SD or was DDR. Nevertheless, they have only 512 MB of RAM. That is basically nothing. So yeah, that will limit you big time of these handhelds. So if you came across this, let's say, older GXD for, let's say, a couple of euros or dollars, it's a fun product to pick up because it's very responsive. I said it was very responsive, or it's responsive for what it is, but it is old, it's obscure, and for an Android device I would never pay, let's say, 100 or 200 euro for this thing. No. So keep in mind, the older versions, stay away from the GXD older versions. So let's talk about the GXD once again, because these things are pretty damn awesome. I really love this bad boy, this huge tablet, and I love these, let's say, fusion like tablet and game pads, handhelds. But the thing that is also a little bit of a problem with this one, it will play a lot of Android games nowadays, and it will still work with the Play Store somehow, and you can play quite some old stuff on it like emulation. But the problem with this is with all the other freaking models that they're having a very old Android. So you are limited to the stuff you can play. But as you can see, it looks pretty nice. It works like a charm. So I play a little bit so you can see that it's pretty cool. You can even, and because of an Android, you can of course do this. So you can use it like an awesome pinball machine. So I really enjoy playing on this GXD, making the review about this thing. But again, it's really old. And he is really expensive. I think they go around for 150, 160 euros. So that's quite a lot of money for a very old tablet gaming handheld that is running on Android 4. And the same is basically with the other version. Because if you're looking at this version, it has an IPS screen, it looks beautiful, but again, an old Android version. And way too expensive. And that is a very common problem with these bloody things. Alright, so that brings us to the Moqi, or Moqi, or how you want to pronounce it. You have the i7 and the i7s. This is the i7 model, it's a little bit cheaper. But this thing runs on a, let's say, a later model if it comes to, let's say, the Android versions. So no 4 version anymore, finally. But here comes the problem. These things are super expensive. They go around 200 to 350 euro for a single device. And what I did notice with this, you would say, okay, it's 300 euro. You can basically buy a Nintendo Switch for this bloody thing. And maybe you can play even some PSP on it. Sega Dreamcast is possible with Red Dream, for example. But if you want to play Sega Saturn, or for example you even want to play a PSP, it's still not powerful enough. And that is something that I'm personally freaking struggling with, and thinking you're buying 300 euros for this more like this phone tablet thing, and you cannot even play the freaking PSP on it. And that is something that really bothers me with these devices. There's not a real good balance. Or you think so? That brings us to the next one. Okay, so my next favorite one, and I can say this thing is my number 2 position. It's the GPD. You have the old version. I think you cannot find it anymore. This one comes with some free Dutch dust. Dutch dust, yes. But the thing is with this Android version, if you're buying the first generation, it doesn't contain the latest Android version, but it is still powerful enough to run Dreamcast, for example, and a little bit of PSP. If you're buying the latest version, it was the GPD, I'm saying it, the Android Plus edition, if I'm saying it correctly. This thing has a better display and even had some more power, so you can run the games a little bit better. So the GPD is more like the flip open case, like a Nintendo Switch. I mean DS. And you can run a lot of great games. It's an Android device, of course, because this is all about Android device, so you can play a lot of great games. It has a beautiful screen, it has a touch screen and everything that you're going to need. You can play your Android games and everything basically works like a charm, even with the special GPD firmware on it. Alright, so here we have the 2 versions, the Big Ben and the Wikipad over there. These are just Android versions, where more like similar like the Nintendo Switch, that you can pull out the tablet and you can use it like a tablet and browse the internet or play some games. But what is just a common problem with both of them is that this one is freaking underpowered, this one is a little bit more powerful with the Tegra 1 chip inside, but at the end they're running Android 4, so we can't use a lot of different emulators, and we have still the freaking same problems. I'm not going to look into all the other devices, I just want to do a quick recap. For the people who are familiar with this product, this thing runs on Android. The first version didn't have, let's say, the open Android version. The second one with a different D-pad, it has it. It's still limited because this device is not powerful. Yep, again, it's not powerful enough. This goes around, let's say, 80 euro. So if you have this thing with open Android, you can do some quite awesome things with it. But again, it's flawed. So that brings me to my number 1 at the moment. My favorite handheld is the X15 from Powkiddy. And Powkiddy brought us this, I would say, superb quality or something. It's a pretty decent product. It lays perfectly in the hand. The shoulder buttons is a little bit strange story because we're having the membrane button and the clickies button. But it has a lot of great functionalities. You have the USB ports and it has an Android 7 if I'm recalling it. It has this very strange firmware, but you can reflash it if you want to do open Androids. So you can do whatever you want with it. I love this thing for many reasons. The price itself goes around 80-90 euros, depends a little bit where you buy it. but it has the capability to run Dreamcast Saturn. Not perfect, again, PSP same story though all the other devices. And I think that is the most common problem with all of the Android devices. Or they are super expensive, like the Moqi, and you pay around €300 for the thing. Or you're going to get an affordable device, but they are having so, let's say, dinosauric old Android versions that you can't play the latest Android games. Because maybe you just want to play some PUBG, for example. Again, you need to reflash this thing to get all the potential out of it. But it is a product that is pretty damn awesome, to be honest. It plays a lot of great day games. You can go to the shop, you can add your own apps. And I think that is pretty damn awesome. And that is the reason why this thing is on my #1 position. The Powkiddy X80 is even, personally it goes prefer over the GPD, because the GPD again is pretty expensive. I think it goes around €150. So there you have it, guys. This is the best, or I want to say top 10, because it's not really top 10, but you're getting the point. This is the video specially made for the best Android handheld now at this moment. Do you have a favorite handheld? Do you own the T-Lex you like that I don't like? Let me know in the comments. I would say consider subscribing, and if you have any questions, you can always leave it in the comments. And don't forget, I have this gigantic list for all reviews of these handhelds, including the X15. You can always look it up, and it would be great to see you in the next video. Subscribe, hit the little bell, and see you in the next one.